Well, hey there, everyone. It's Gigi Sober Sun. It's a late afternoon, evening reading today, March 20th. AA thought for the day. When we were drinking, we used to worry about the future. Worry is terrible mental punishment. What's going to become of me? Where will I end up? In the gutter or the sanitarium? We can see ourselves slipping, getting worse and worse, and we wonder what the finish will be. Sometimes we get so discouraged in thinking about the future that we toy with the idea of suicide. In AA, have I stopped worrying about the future? Yeah, to a large extent I have, yes. And, it still creeps in from time to time, right? But there's a step for that. The 10th step spiritual, well, it's not the 10th step spiritual axiom, but it says, it ties in with the 10th step spiritual axiom that says, it's out of the 12 and 12, that says, when I am disturbed, I am the one with the problem, basically. And then, so, what shall I do about my problem? And then it goes back to the big book in the 10th step where it says, we continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, and any other unwanted emotion, as far as has been my experience. We ask God at once to remove it. We talk to somebody about it, make amends if necessary, and then turn our thoughts to someone we can help, right? It's kind of like a little checklist. But whenever unwanted emotions come up, or unhelpful emotions, because sometimes fear can, emotions are information. Fear can be a motivator, right? If you're a chain smoker and you're afraid of dying from cancer, lung cancer, that fear can motivate you to change, right? And you're not going to probably die tomorrow from lung cancer. So, and you're probably not going to die today from lung cancer. I'm not minimizing people who have died from lung cancer all of a sudden because they weren't aware of it. But that's the future, right? That's a fear of the future. That's a good kind of fear. But, fearing how I'm going to die from alcoholism is not one of those fears that I have to worry about these days. Thankfully. Meditation for the day. Functioning on a material plane alone takes me away from God. I must also try to function on a spiritual plane. Functioning on a spiritual plane as well as on a material plane will make life what it should be. All material activities are valueless in themselves alone, but all activities seemingly trivial or of seemingly great moment are all alike if directed by God's guidance. I must try to obey God as I would expect a faithful, willing servant to carry out directions. Yeah, it takes an act of God to obey a God, I think. But if we're surrendering at least on a daily basis, and my aim, so I've got the morning thing down, right? And I'm getting better at night, getting on my knees and thanking them for my day. So what I would like to start doing is in the middle of the day, even if it's to go in a bathroom stall or something and get on my knees and surrender again, just to show in all humility that I know I ain't running the show, that I surrender all to him and trust that he'll do a better job of my life than I've made of my own. Because I just wanted to blot everything out, right? I didn't want to feel anymore. I didn't want to fear anymore, and for a while alcohol took that away, but then came the fear of impending doom that I experienced very viscerally for the first time when I was 21, I think, and I was stationed in Korea for a year, and I was walking home and I just got the heebie-jeebies, and I just thought to myself that I would probably not make it home from that country. Something would happen. And it took a lot of alcohol the night before I got on that plane. And actually, I was just thinking of this the other day. When we were flying back, I don't know how far, we had turbulence, really bad turbulence. It was a big plane. I think it was a 747. We had really bad turbulence, and we must have lost, I don't know, it felt like 1,000 feet. Just sudden, boom, dropped. And even the flight attendants looked scared. They were trying to serve drinks and things were going up in the air kind of thing. And they were clutching onto the chairs around them and stuff. But I was just like, whatever. Trying to stay inebriated. So whatever happens. But thank God I made it out. I made it alive. And I made it through my alcoholism without some sort of catastrophe. And, it was bad enough. They talk about yet. I haven't had a DUI yet. That kind of thing. I just don't want the agains. So, and that's my fear of ever drinking, is that I'll get the agains, that look on people's face when they say, do you know what you did last night? I know I shared that recently, but that was terrible. I hated that. The shame, fear, guilt, and remorse of the next day. Prayer for the day. I pray that the flow of God's Spirit may come to me through many channels. I pray that I may function on a spiritual plane as well as on a material plane. Yeah, I love how the Big Book puts it. It talks about those of us who have lived on a plane of spiritual make-believe have eventually seen the foolishness of it. that God wants us to have our heads in the clouds with Him, but our feet firmly planted on the earth, because that is where our fellow travelers are. And I love that. That is so just poignant and speaks to the practical nature of the spiritual life that I've been given in AA. And I wouldn't have it any other way, because I've tried the weirdo, sounds like I just swallowed a Pew Bible, a King James Pew Bible. And I've stood outside of liquor stores handing out gospel tracts, telling people you don't need to go in there, that kind of stuff. And that might help some people, right? But I've done that, and I feel like my place is in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, not to try to preach to people, no sir, but to walk what I talk. That speaks louder than getting in somebody's face with a gospel tract and telling them what they should and shouldn't do, right? And half the time I wasn't living a life of integrity when I was telling people how they should live. That's the thing. That's the honest truth. That the longer I'm in AA, the more my life lines up to where I'm the same person I am in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous that I am on the job. I'm the same on the job and in Alcoholics Anonymous as I am at home, right? But I made I was talking to my mom about this on the way out here. I may belch a little more demonstratively when I'm home alone, right? Because I'm a dude. but for the most part, I don't have secrets, right? I don't have a secret life that nobody knows about. Like if I were to, pass away tomorrow and they were to go through my house, they're not going to find anything that they're like, oh my gosh, this guy was creepy, So that's what Alcoholics Anonymous has given to me. Led me to a higher power, right? That spread across all areas of my life, in all my affairs, as it says in life, all aspects, all dimensions of my life, right? That's what the big book and Alcoholics Anonymous has given to me, and I hope that everybody can get that. That's why I do this channel, really as an exercise for myself, as a habit. And actually, this is probably, I think, the second year I've done this to get an entire year. So I've still got some days that I missed the first year that I'm filling in. And we'll continue to do that. But there will be a year of these daily readings eventually on GG Sober Sun. So keep coming back. More will be revealed. That's what they told me in the early days. And I thought, alright, you're just being a little woo-woo now. But so much more has been revealed. And That's why I keep coming back, because I love it. I love learning new things about life and myself and my disease and God. So, I love y'all. Look up. Aim up. Rise up.